something going on up the road here tomorrow, right? We've talked before. I feel like we've had a few conversations along the way about Marriage Story. And I know this is your fourth collaboration with writer-director Noah Baumbach. Phenomenal job. I want to talk, I'm just going to go right into it. And I want to talk a little bit about your rehearsal process with him. Because I know you guys talk a lot and you develop kind of along the way, and then he'll go underground and write and present to you. But when you get to the actual shooting to it, like take me through how that rehearsal is leading up to that moment.
Well, yeah, you kind of said it. We had been talking about it for, I mean, we are friends, we see each other socially, and it always kind of evolves into what do we want to work on next. And so by the time we actually had started shooting, we had been talking about it for 6 months to a year. I didn't really catalog how long it was. So I was aware of all of the things that we had talked about, and I knew he had been talking to other people, other lawyers or friends, and so to kind of see our conversations and his conversations put in such a concise, lean, high-stakes script was really exciting. So that was we already knew a lot then, and then there was 2 weeks of rehearsal, similar to rehearsing a play when you're in some windowless basement that's overlit, in California. We taped everything on the floor and rehearsed it for 2 weeks and went from top to tail. Then for bigger scenes that feel like they require just being in the space, we did that. So for the fight, we would go into the apartment and kind of feel it out, just us and Robbie, Ryan, who shot it. It would just kind of be the four of us talking it through, and then on the day we again would go through it. So for me, it's great. I like a lot of rehearsal, and I'm used to it with theater, and Noah's scripts play very much like theater, where I know you do a run of a play where you've been doing it for 4 or 5 months. You do 8 shows a week, and always at the end of the play, you want to start from the beginning and do it again, because now you have a better sense of what it is that you want to do. Just from repetition, or something that something an actor does, or a thought that you've had in your day that suddenly works with the great writing that you have, which you can only really do with great writing. With bad writing, it's pretty much just one way to do it. But with good writing, the language is so rich, it opens your imagination, and he surrounds you with Robbie, Ryan, who throws out set pieces that are so detailed and specific that you don't have to go inside to find any of the answers. It's all in front of you. There's no internal thing that you have to, it's nothing interior. All the answers are, or ideas are in front of you, because it's all so detailed and specific. So, and then we have the luxury of doing a lot of takes. So again, similar to a play, you do it night after night, and then suddenly a thought happens that you hadn't thought of before, and it's similar with rehearsing it, or getting a lot of takes when you're shooting it. Is there's no right way to play a scene. There was no correct version. There's just either we make it better and more economical, and then we have to stop eventually because someone makes it.
There's so many shots in this film that are very, very long without a cut. As an actor, do you almost prefer that? Or do you prepare a little bit differently for that?
I enjoy that. I don't know that if I prefer it or not. Yeah. I like the stress of that, and that it feels like But then again, I also I also enjoy doing things where it doesn't help you. Where you feel like you need a lot of stuff to do it, and then you only have 1 or 2 takes to kind of figure it out. So I don't know if I all find it all miserable. So I prefer one or the other, right? But I do like the long takes, and then it does get to choreography, and then it's a whole new thing of how do you make the choreography not feel like that.
Well, I want to talk about that because there's so many great scenes in this film, from when you arrive in LA and she serves you the papers in the kitchen scene, and you meet all the family members. It's so physical. The scene with the knife, so physical. You know, there is. I love the athleticism in this performance for you. I think that Noah brings. I love how he brought out that best part of you in this film and on all those scenes, the comedy and the drama and all of it. In the moment when you have rehearsals, and I know Noah's very tedious about this, both of you guys are focused on detail. How much room is there for a spontaneous thought in that moment when you're filming? Like in the knife scene, when you're in the house, you're opening up we understand that you haven't been there before. You're opening up a cabinet door that maybe is the wrong door, and you're doing all that, or the fight scene. Like, was there moments in that when you were filming that were completely spontaneous?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, you mentioned one of them just then. You know, he didn't have the apartment before we had the apartment, so it wasn't. It was described in the script, but we didn't have the logistics of it worked out. So things like trying to grab a cabinet was something that we came up on the day. You know, he doesn't really know this house, so he imagines that they open a certain way and they don't. So it's like little things like that we found. You know, or the balancing cooking special meal and like, okay, where's the timer on this oven? It's, you know, different than what I had in my mind. So there's a lot of adjusting things like that. So it's, you know, it's again similar to what I was saying before. It's he just gives you different boundaries. There's no changing the text, the script is the script, which is fine with us. And the blocking is very considered and thought through. So if anything, it relieves that problem. You know, he didn't just like put a camera in a room and said, you know, like just wing it and see what happens. It's all very choreographed, which I enjoy, because then you can just lead into it. And you have to know your lines. You have to not just know what you're saying, you have to know them so well that you can forget them. And then be available for whatever happens. So in that sense, it's nothing but helpful. Having, you know, repetition and just having very clear boundaries, so hopefully that thing will happen. What I enjoy about acting is, you know, the conscious and the unconscious start happening, where you know exactly that you're supposed to look this way and you're supposed to say this line and you're supposed to mean it, but then by sheer repetition or getting something from the other actor, suddenly you're listening in a different way, and the scene plays in a different way.
I mean, how many takes did you do when you fell to the floor with that knife? I loved hearing the audience that was backstage, and everyone's like gasped.
Oh, when
blood.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I passed out.
Yeah. Well, speaking of actors, Scarlett Johansson plays Nicole. Part of what I think is so winning about this movie is your chemistry. You guys have, you know, we're watching a relationship of 10 years on the screen. As actors, how do you get to that?
Well, I think you can really only do it because it's Scarlett and because it's the script. Like, the script is so clear that, you know, we just have to say it and mean it and not really add a lot on top of it. And you know, Scarlett was prepared and available and there, you know, which is a big thing. She wasn't anywhere else, which sounds just like a backhanded compliment in some way, but it's not. It's really hard to work with people sometimes who are just they're not anywhere else. They're right in front of you. So there was nothing that we had to work on.
And what is it about your temperament with Noah Baumbach that you think makes you guys such effective collaborators?
I mean, I don't know. There is something about, he is an excellent communicator with everybody, not just the actors, but every detail on the set. And he's on a constant quest to kind of make that more economical with everything. Every conversation that he's having with you, he's having with, you know, with the camera department, with costumes, with, you know, there's such specificity in what it is that he's after that I completely trust him. And he doesn't take, you know, it for granted that we're making a movie. We're making this thing that we're asking people to, you know, come and watch and leave their house and, you know, come here and be in a room with strangers, and we're asking to take like 2.5 hours, you know, of their time. It better be interesting or worth the effort, and us ourselves, want to get something out of it also. We've left our families to go, be with people who we are forced to be intimate with for 4 months, that we're never going to see them again, probably. Like, what are we doing? If trying to make something that hopefully is interesting or has a point of view, and if it doesn't, it sucks and we failed, but hopefully the attempt is as, how do you make it as if it's life or death, even though it's not, because movies are so democratic, they find their audiences, in places that theater doesn't, middle America, or, that's what I love about movies. I have no relationship to Scorsese's movies, that's not my world, but, something about those movies are, what a great opportunity, you can't fuck it up. So I think there's a lot of that, and just his temperament. He's on set, everything's incredibly focused, incredibly prepared. He's not a passive observer. He's very much an active audience member with you. You feel totally safe. He's not yelling or screaming, ideas, with a megaphone. It all feels just like an intimate conversation that started, in our case, at dinner tables and just moves to different locations until it's over.
Yeah, and he doesn't like lunch. That's what he told me. He's like, there's plenty of food. We don't need to stop for lunch.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
crazy.
Yeah.
Which I kind of love about him. Part of all of you is in this movie also, which I love. This character's from Indiana. You're from Indiana, aren't you? And right, shout out, anybody? I love when I hear a little twang of that kind of Bay, that Midwestern twang comes out. Yeah, did you like my accent? Yeah, can't quite do it, but it comes out a little bit. Why did you think it would be interesting to have
To do that.
no, to have Charlie be in the theater world? What about made you, when you know we're talking about this, decide that was a world you wanted to explore on film?
Even him being a transplant was something that was obviously something we talked about, of that not being his world, but at the same time, him has so appropriated his culture around him that it seems like that is where he's from. And that it's not, Exit Ghost is a very, it's gritty and more authentic way of, in his pretentious way of, it's not a sellout of, teen movies. What they're doing is real. I think they meet, performance is such a huge part of this movie. They meet in performance. It starts, the movie begins in performance with on Scarlett's face. They talk about how they met at a very, a site-specific play where she says, I think in that scene with Laura, that he's a bear of an actor. So there's something about creating, with a community of people who's not in it for, money or attention. It feels more scrappy and authentic, and by that, all the more heartbreaking that they would leave and all the more offensive that he would have an affair with someone that's such, a nucleus of people, and just to further highlight, they're, just completely on different paths. They're separated in almost every way. Now even ideologically, that what they want out of art, this thing that they shared together, is now different. So things like that.
I love the way he starts with, like you said, with the performance and ends with the performance. It's amazing. The Sondheim, being alive. It's great. How is that performing that song?
That's not fun. I think thanks.
What you meant, what you clapped and cheered over was a mumbled, "It's not fun."
It is. I mean, it's one of the great songs in ever. I guess I was going to say in musicals, but it's great. And sometimes lyrics are so, they're what great musicals do. You're watching a character transform, hopefully, into something else by the end of the song, and so that's what you focus on, and not that you're singing a Sondheim song and focusing on the words you're trying. I mean, where Noah put it in the script, I thought was just a beautiful place of, I mean, even speaking to this idea of performance, that only through an abstract way of expressing himself can he, you know, because their characters from the start, before the movie begins, Scarlett has made her decision of what Nicole is going to do. Then the movie begins and she reclaims what she's lost. And Charlie, this theater director who's so used to having control, is on the back foot the entire time and is, you know, trying to find his footing. Everything about that was familiar in his life is now upended, and he doesn't really mourn, you know, not necessarily love being gone, but love transitioning into this other thing. And I don't think it's really until he can perform, until he has an impromptu performance where it's something that he knows very well, that you get the sense that he maybe did it in high school, or, you know, he just knows it intuitively. But even, again, just by repetition or something else happening in your life that opens up something to you that, you know, you watch a movie again and where you're at, you have a fight with your wife, or you, you know, something happening, taxes, you know, it inevitably, or something good. I mean, taxes and fight with your wife. Two things that come to me really quickly. That just changes your perspective on that thing that you thought you knew. And only then can he actually mourn, you know, through the lyrics of someone who's saying that, you know, that the thing that they didn't want their entire life, sit in my chair and ruin my sleep. They actually, that's all they want. The thing that they were rejecting, now they wish they had it. And I feel it's the same for him. The thing that he took for granted, he covets in a way, and it's unexpected. I love that part of it. And it's abstract. It's not a speech where he says the thing that he's feeling, which is what I hate in movies. Or people saying their feelings. I can't stand it, you know. But, you know, it's only through then, it's a testament to Noah's writing. It's, you know, hopefully you get to watch him begin to mourn, and that hopefully carries through the rest of, well, to the end.
Yeah, I think it's so moving, when we see you walk and you're walking and talking, and the way he shot it, all in one shot.
Yeah, Noah has a really articulate way of describing it, actually. It's like the only time where camera movement isn't dictated by motion of the actors. It's, you know, it's moving independently. And there are 2 times, I think that and with her, you know, because it pushes in, I haven't seen it, but it pushes on me when I'm singing, I guess. And then same thing with Scarlett and her monologue. I think it's the only 2 times where it's not just following actors, that you get the cameras moving independent. So in a way, it's like 2 people talking to each other. You know, it's 2 performances from the same musical, obviously. Well, hers is a speech, but even within the movie, there's a conversation. And again, I can't say enough, which is a testament to Noah and his writing, that he had all these big themes and ideas that we had talked about, but I mean, that's a great example of something structural that he also wanted to accomplish. You know, even the score, he always had this idea of having this big sweeping romantic score that came from an internal monologue, not necessarily something that, again, is motivated by movement. Or, you know, a movie that plays with audience's allegiance, where you start with one character and maybe something over the course of it. So that's what I mean to answer your first question of all of these things that were filtering around in his head that, you know, filtered out into this one thing.
I would imagine if you had all the time in the world, you guys could do 1 million takes on scene. Yes. And each one of them would probably be great. Different.
Yeah. Different. He also suffered from the same illness of like, well, let's just do 2 more. You know, let's just see what that feels like.
And then who's first?
It depends. I mostly Noah is like, we gotta stop. But it depends on. It depends.
You've been acting now for 10 years, or been acting a long time. And feel like your first role was about your first film. What is now that you're a professional actor and you are in 3 movies, right, this year alone, you've been very, very busy.
Also, I have no choice when those come out.
Oh, I know.
I wish I like had a choice, but I don't.
Isn't that funny the way that?
Yeah.
It's like
People have been saying that to me. Like I've had nothing to do with where it's like you make them and then you go away and they come out. You know.
Wasn't it Jessica Chastain that had 9 movies or something come out in the same year?
I mean, those movies didn't suck. I don't know what they.
You've done them. You're going to talk about all of them.
Yeah.
But for you put in your time. You tried out for Juilliard. You didn't get in. You went into the Marines. You had an injury. You got out of the Marines. You auditioned again for Juilliard. You got in. You went to the conservatory all 4 years. You worked. You hustled. You waited tables. You did all of that. Now you're doing it. You're making a living at it. What is still your favorite part of the day when you know that you're going to act? You know you're going to work?
Honestly, when it's over.
You're like in bed asleep and you've done it, you're good? Yeah.
Yeah. The best part of getting a job is when you get the job. Like the first 2 hours of getting the job. Then you got more than you do it, and then your idea never matches what it is, you know. And then you wait a year or 2 years, and they come out, and this is a bad answer though. But to answer, but what you just described is that is the answer to your question. But what you just described is still the thing that I don't understand. That is, making a living as an actor is a miracle in and of itself. Just to say that that's what you do as a job, and to think about it is, even thinking about it is an embarrassment of riches. That you have to give it focus and attention. I do have those moments, and then on top of that, the people that I've got to work with, and it's a miracle. But that they're not, and as generous as they haven't been. Now let me just tell you what to do, and I would be, oh, okay, yeah, I'll just do what you tell me to do. But that they want to give you responsibility, and it makes me take ownership over what it is I'm doing, and that all that stuff. I've been incredibly lucky with not only the people that I've got to work with, but that I just get to do it anyway. Is a miracle. But yeah, my favorite part is when it's over. And then someone that I trust has seen it and either likes it or doesn't like it, and then there's nothing I can do, so then I just move on to
Do you think you'll ever see this one?
No. I don't think so. As of right now, no. Maybe 10 years from now, maybe right now, no. This one, in particular, because I made it with my friend, we made other ones, but this one is too close. I don't want to, and it wouldn't be fun anyway, me watching for anybody. I wouldn't like something about it, and then you kind of have to watch it 5 times to not think that you're in it, and really see what it is that's happening, and then I can't help but get in my head for the next thing of trying to make it look good, and that's uninteresting to me also, of trying to make it look better. I have tried to actively give myself boundaries to be, with the people I'm with while we're shooting it, and then, trust that Noah turns it into whatever he's, that's my job. I'm in the service industry still, really acting is a service industry. I'm there in service of all the other cast and the crew, and especially Noah. So whatever he's trying to make, I'll support that.
You have to take time in between projects? Do you have to shake off that character and then before you tell another story?
I wish I could. I wish I did. I wish I took more time to do that. But even at Juilliard, I was always used to rehearsing during the day and doing things at night. Like you're rehearsing scene work from some classical, Elizabethan thing, and then you're doing, something else totally, completely different. So that muscle of constantly, and it's a conservatory, so you're there from 7, in the morning to, 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, basically 7 days a week, for 4 years. So um, things that I thought I needed sometimes, almost every job is also a lesson in this, the things that you think you don't really need. And that's the same thing with work. I feel like I would like to have more time in between to kind of let go, but whenever jobs are over, I always want to let them go. I always am ready to move on and flush it out immediately. I think we were talking about this before. It infects your life in a way that you're not even anticipating. It's like jet lag. You go to a different country, and it's 4 hours difference. So for the first couple days, you're not with it. You're like a zombie. Then after 5 days, you start to adjust, and that's what it's like working on a movie. You go into this other country, and your body isn't used to being there, but then suddenly it's in this heightened state for 12 hours a day for 4 months, and it just adapts, where inevitably you can't help but, it starts to overtake everything. How you are during work, how you are off work. Your chemicals are just stressed or thinking of that character living as a different person that even without doing anything, you've naturally adjusted in it. Not in like a conscious actor methody way. You just change. And then when that's over, you go back to your life, and try to flush it out as soon as possible. And I don't know if it's good to have something else to focus on, that you have to change it and shift it to something else, or you need more time. I've only done it the way where you're doing a lot, which I kind of like too. And plus, that's what work is to me. I always saw I grew up in Indiana, so my parents go to work. They would go to work and they'd come home tired and get up and go back to work. So that's just what you do. The idea of taking months off is, I think, a healthy thing, but I have to get over that. Taking that much time off.
Glad that you don't. It's very dynamic.
Yeah, now, but then next year I'll be like, read movies and be like,
do we have some time for some audience questions? I know. All right, right up here.
I'm not thinking, oh, sorry.
Yeah. So the question is basically, the film is very intense. It covers a very dramatic, divorce. Did you think about that going into doing this, how it would affect people? Is that what the question was basically?
No, because I can't think of the end of what it's going to be, because it could very easily not. So we're not focused on what it's going to mean to people, or if it'll mean anything, or even what it means itself. We're really just breaking it up into, that thing that everyone's doing, breaking it up into pieces and making sure that you get the best version in the time that you have of what you're trying to tell, and then whatever Noah comes up with, we have, again, that's it. Film is forever. So that's the story he's telling. What the effect of that is hard for me to say. It's, I heard someone say this, so I steal it. That we don't live in a theater. We all have our lives outside this place. However you got here affected you coming into this and watching it, and you're different than I am. So the things that you're going to get out of the same thing are going to be different, just inevitably, because you cherry pick things that relate to you that maybe didn't relate to me. So in a way, you could tell me about the movie, in a way that I could tell you about the movie and be the same thing. That's what I like about, theater or movies, seeing with strangers, is that it's this thing that's, it's hard for me to say. I wouldn't want to shortchange what that is for you by telling you, or assuming that it's going to mean something, because I don't know what it was. So that's a long way of saying, no, we're not thinking of the end so much.
Was there a scene you were most scared about filming? I mean, was that the script? Was there one particular scene perhaps for this one, or
The question is there a scene you're most scared of or terrified to shoot?
this hopefully doesn't sound like a cop-out, but there always are scenes like that in a movie where there's one or two scenes because that you're just aware of in the schedule because they're, you know, a lot to say, or it's a big set piece, or, you know, they're physically, you know, whatever. But all of these scenes really did feel like that. Because the stakes were so high and they were so lean, all of them felt too early in the schedule for us to be doing them. Like Halloween felt too soon, you know, the scene with Martha Kelly and cutting a hand, all felt too soon, which is a testament to, I think, oh, this is good. Even things that seemed innocuous, like talking to Eji, my son, suddenly took on a new meaning when you're, you know, it's not, screenplays are meant to be seen, not read so much. So looking at his face, it takes on a whole new meaning, and, you know, surrounded by that very specific set, they all felt kind of, you know, too early to do. Just some seemed longer than others. That was the only difference. Like the fight was probably the most challenging because it was just longer. You know, we shot it for 2 days, and we had one camera, and we started from the beginning and went to the very end. On the second day, you know, we're at the latter part of the scene, so we'd have to start from the beginning. Every time we did it, we would start from the top and just keep running it. So that one just seemed, I guess, on the outside, that was more tiring because it was longer, but it didn't make it less emotional necessarily.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for it. Sorry, guys, because you're about to see another Adam Driver movie.
No, go.
That I'm sure he has not seen.